This is an unmade Unicron prototype. He's bulbous, he's round, he's overall a good boy. But the main thing you should know about this Unicron is that he never got released. The world is a strange and cruel place, and sometimes people who deserve to live don't get to live. And the same goes for Transformers toys. Sometimes toys are designed and make it all the way to the prototype phase and still don't get made. Obviously, the main villain of the 1986 movie should have gotten a toy, right? And to be fair to Takara and Hasbro, they definitely tried. In the movie, Unicron is this muscular-looking giant robot that destroys planets with a single stroke of his arm. This man over here, he's an extra-large Bakugan with a side of fries. I'm not sure who would win in an eating contest, him or CaseOh.
2 a.m.
The guys recognize
2 McDoubles, 2 McChickens, large fry, 20-piece, large Coke.
There's actually two versions of this guy. The first prototype was created by Takara. His colors are a little off, matching the old version of the movie. There's actually like 15 versions of the Transformers movie. I recommend Chris McFeely's video on it because it's really informative and really good. And real quick, before we move on, I'm Jake, dumb as ever, and I would really appreciate it if you like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Moving on. So this Takara version was colored differently, and the alt mode for Unicron had like a little moon to it, which is pretty cool. At a later date, Takara collaborated with Hasbro to make a second prototype, the one we've seen already. This guy is much bigger than the first prototype, and his alt mode much more closely matches the movie that we saw. I'm not gonna lie, I have a lot of love for this guy. Like, obviously he looks a little silly, but when you look at G1 Optimus Prime, for example, he also looks a little silly, unless you have that cool new superposable figure that came out recently. And I'm not the only one that appreciates this guy, by the way. Ever since BotCon 1996, when he first got revealed, there's been a lot of love for this goofy version of Unicron. One example of this I'd like to highlight is Hightail Creations' version of Unicron. Now, this guy went and 3D printed his own frickin' Unicron at Legend scale, so he's a lot smaller than he would be in real life, but still, this is the original G1 Unicron design, but it can transform and it's in real life, and you can touch it with your fingers and hands. I gotta say, it's really awesome how creators like Hightail Creations and Sam's Forge are able to make their own versions of stuff that we've been begging Hasbro for years, like animated Spitor, so mad props to them for that. I should also mention the Super 7 reaction figure of the Unicron G1 prototype. Instead of making their reaction Unicron look like regular real Unicron, they made it look like the G1 toy for some reason. It's a pretty funny choice, I'm not gonna lie, and it's pretty cool that there is actually a retail product you can get of this Unicron toy, even if he doesn't transform. And Unicron isn't the only G1 toy that got abandoned. Arcee was noticeably missing from the lineup for the original toys, and in fact, Arcee is cursed. First, just let me say, this Arcee G1 toy did not even transform. They just sculpted a robot and a car, but not a robot that turns into a car. What the hell, Hasbro? Now, that's not even the craziest part of the Arcee lore. First crazy thing, the first toy to ever come out that was actually named Arcee was a repaint of Transmetal 2 Black Arachnia. So Arcee, for some reason, turned into a giant freaky spider. And an even more effed up crazy thing about the Arcee lore is that the first real Arcee transforming toy that looks like her original G1 self came out for the 30th anniversary of Transformers. That's only 10 years ago. What the hell, Hasbro? And can we all agree the best Arcee Transformer is the animated one? Like, she's just so much better than every other Arcee toy, it's kinda crazy. So we're moving out of G1 into a new era of Transformers. And we're once again starting with a Unicron. This is kind of like a better attempt at Unicron, I guess. I don't like him as much as the G1 version, but like most Beast Wars era figures, he's got hella kibble on him. He's got like a turtle shell made out of the planet he turns into. He kind of gives me the same vibes as this Darth Vader that turns into the Death Star. Like, Vader's kibble is not as bad as Unicron's, but similar type of concept. Continuing on into the Beast era, we're actually gonna move to the end of the line. So Beast Machines was the second and final part to the Beast Wars saga, but it wasn't always meant to be. They were working on a third series called Transformers Transtech, which would have been the next step in the Beast Wars lore. The fandom of 1999 hated Beast Machines. They hated Beast Wars 2 at first, but they warmed up to it once they realized it was a really good show and the toys were really fun. Beast Machines, though, the story was a lot darker and had a lot more messaging behind it besides, like, war is bad. There's all this stuff about technical and organic and combining the two. And the show did introduce a lot of concepts we still use today, like sparks. The show just gained a really bad reputation, and the toy line did not help because these designs were so weird. Rat Trap has no legs now. Cheetor is huge. They just made a big-ass Cheetor toy for some reason. I think I had this one. It was kind of cool, not gonna lie. Megatron turns into an egg. Like, in retrospect, all these figures are at least interesting, but the fandom was not having it. I'm telling you, they hated this show. So, the third series that was in production, Transtech, was canceled. Transtech is really interesting because it would have been the next step in evolution for the Transformers as a race. So, for example, Optimus Prime would turn into a truck now, but he'd have a big old monkey face on the front. So, it's like kind of the combination of both the original G1 series and Beast Wars. And I gotta tell you, these concepts are insanely cool, and when I finally joined, like, the internet conversation of Transformers, this is some of the first stuff I saw online, where it was like, wow, they canceled this? Like, I would stare at these Shockwave and Optimus Prime designs. For some reason, the logos for their names all use, like, the SAW font. I have no idea why, but I've always thought that was funny. So there are actually some unreleased prototypes to go with this series. 2, in fact. The first, I'm not super into, it's Starscream. He looks weird in Transtech. I don't vibe with this design at all. It doesn't give Starscream to me. He does kind of give me, like, Energon Starscream vibes with all the translucent plastic. And you can sue me for this, I'm not really into Energon Starscream either. Now, what I am into is this Transtech Cheetor design. So in the concept art, he goes from a Cybertronian sports car with cheetah print on it to this really lanky, sort of Beast Machines-esque Cheetor robot mode, except he's got these big old wheels for feet. Now, as for the prototype toy, we don't have full images of the robot mode, just the vehicle mode and some of the transformation process, which is interesting. I think this may be the only prototype where we kind of have images of the transformation. Even though it sucks we don't have the robot mode, we can find solace in the fact that Animated Blur gets his design cues from this Transtech Cheetor design. The big wheels and the feet, the lanky design, the sports car mode, it's all very similar, though in a more stylized format. And to bring things full circle, for a BotCon exclusive one year, they repainted Animated Blur to be Animated Cheetor, finally giving us a Transtech Cheetor toy. Now, this toy is very expensive and it's not super available to everybody, but it does exist and that's pretty cool. Speaking of animated, it is absolutely a summarization of those events. You should definitely check out Kian Carlisle's channel because he has all the good info on Transformers Animated. He's basically a historian for the series at this point. And best of all, we would have gotten even more of these amazing Transformers animated toys. The animated toy line has to be one of the best Transformers toy lines ever. That's probably like 50% nostalgia and 50% just being real with you. So the first Transformers animated toy that was canceled that I want to talk about is Marauder Megatron. This guy is such a beast. It's Megatron, but he's a triple changer. He has a Cybertronian tank and jet mode. He's got 2 big old cannons on his arms. He's got a Hannibal Lecter mask. This is just such a raw design for him. The fact that the prototype fully transforms and it was like clearly fully developed just kills me inside. Because we could have had this, man. We could have had it. I think I'd be willing to cut off one of my pinkies to hold this guy for just like 5 minutes. Now, if that sounded too dramatic for you, you're clearly not built for this channel, and I'm kindly asking you to leave. After you like and subscribe, of course. Anyway, there's also one more prototype I'd like to talk about, which is the animated Hotshot. Hotshot actually looks into one, and also it makes a lot of sense if Minicons were gonna be a part of the series. Hotshot is a perfect choice. These two designs just go to show how solid the design team was at creating animated figures at this point. Animated has to be one of the hardest shows to make a toy for, because the designs are so stylized. But this Hotshot and this Marauder Megatron looked like they could have been some of the best animated figures ever. So that's my video on unreleased Transformers. I had a great time researching. There's a lot more unreleased figures, but these ones were the most interesting to me and the ones I wanted to talk about the most. So that's just how I made my decisions there. If you know any other unreleased Transformers, please talk about them in the comments. My last video did unexpectedly well. A ton of you guys watched and subscribed and liked, and I really gotta say thank you for that. I've been grinding on YouTube for like 15 years with a ton of different channels, to be fair, and nothing has like hit like this success, and I want to capitalize on it, and I want to give y'all more stuff to watch. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna go get a little Caesar's pizza and relax. Until next time, peace.